Hey, thank you very much for tuning back into my channel. I greatly appreciate it. What I've got for you today is Roger Stone gets convicted on his 7 charges that he was being tried for. Not that I agree fully on the fact that he got convicted on them, because when I looked into several of them, one of them was just a simple case he forgot what was in his email. I mean, people send out lots of email and they're expected to remember everything. So I disagreed on a lot of what he was being charged and what he got convicted for. But if he indeed did knowingly lie, blatantly lie to the FBI, lie to Congress, whatever the case may be, then yeah, he should be held accountable. That's part of our legal system. So in this case, he's looking at 7 to 9 years, under which the DOJ announced under William Barr that was an inappropriate prison sentence. And I would agree with that 100%. When we have people who are pedophiles who get convicted for the first time for pedophilia, they on average receive less than 3 years in prison. And so they want to put Roger Stone away on a process charge for 7 to 9 years for lying, and yet first time pedophile convictions only get less than 3 years? That doesn't make sense. So to me, the legal system is absolutely screwed up, and I seriously believe there's a cancer in our legal system. As a whole, we get Roger Stone, other people connected to President Trump who get convicted for lying, and yet people like Hillary Clinton, who committed multiple felonies, including violating the Espionage Act by having classified materials on a private server. And not only that, she also obstructed justice and destroying over 30,000 emails, and destroy the PDA type devices that were also under subpoena. So she gets to walk free. Roger Stone's looking at 7 to 9 years. That doesn't make sense. Then let's look at the case of James Comey and the lies he's done, and yet where's his being held accountable? I mean, seriously, the list is long. You've got the Orrs, Bruce and Ellie Orr, who lied, and yet they're not being held accountable. There's Andrew McCabe, just recently had all charges dropped by the DOJ. They're not going to pursue the case anymore. Yet he also lied, and yet he's not being held accountable. James Clapper went before Congress and lied. Why isn't he being held accountable? The list is long of these liberal, anti-Trump, Obama holdovers that are not having charges brought against them for lying to the FBI or lying to Congress or lying before court. It makes no sense at all. But so that to me says that there's definitely some sort of cancer in our justice system when the judiciary system is no longer blind to whoever comes in. We process you based on the crimes you've committed. And now it looks like as long as you're a Trump hater or a liberal or have some sort of clout with the liberal politics in our government, you get off scot-free. But if you're a conservative, we throw the book at you and we'll sentence you for greater charges than we sentence people who've committed actual criminal offenses. It makes no sense at all. So there's definitely a problem with our legal system that seriously needs to be fixed, because unless that takes place, America can no longer be America as we know it, where everybody is held accountable for the laws that they or the crimes that they have committed. And that includes illegal aliens coming across our borders. The next thing I want to talk about on top of Roger Stone is I've been seeing numerous presidential candidates talking about what they're referring to as gun loopholes. So number one, I've got an issue with the Brady bill that was passed in the 1990s that gave us the background check system to begin with. I hate the system. I think it's wrong, and I'll tell you why. But I'm going to state one thing before that. Do I think there are some justifiable reasons for having a background system? Yes, I think we should do what we can to keep guns out of the hands of criminals. But on the same token, I would say the government needs to stay out of the gun trade, the sales and the buying of firearms. They need to stay out of it, and here's why. When I read the Constitution, it does not say you have a right to bear arms, with the exception of you being a felon. It's not in there at all. It says you have a right to bear arms, and that right shall not be infringed. And when I look at that, why is the government getting in the way of the buying and selling of firearms? Any firearm. Why do we even have an ATF at that point? Because there's no reason for them other than public safety, as you will constantly hear, keeping the firearms out of the hands of criminals. But my issue is, if we are to be a country, we need to be a country that abides by our Constitution, not writing laws around the Constitution, or shall we say outside the Constitution, into which I would say all of those gun control laws, the Brady Bill that gives us the NICS system or the background check system, the NFA Act, the Hughes Amendment, all of those issues are, in my opinion, are unconstitutional. Because why? They are not based in our Second Amendment. And we must uphold the Second Amendment at all costs. So the second thing related to these background checks, in which they're referring to as these loopholes, are what are referred to as a boyfriend loophole. Now, this one is absolutely ridiculous, but I do kind of understand the base for it. And here it is. They want to have, they're referring to the gun hold loophole, are those people who are unmarried partners or stalkers are currently not excluded from buying or purchasing a firearm. An unmarried person. Again, where in our Constitution does it say you're unmarried, therefore you can't have a firearm, or you're a stalker, therefore you can't have a firearm? But that's what they're wanting, and they're wanting to prohibit that. And they go on to state that those that would be prohibited would be those who have committed some sort of abuse. But they're not specifying the abuse. Physical abuse, emotional abuse, verbal abuse, what abuse? They're not specifying. They just don't want people who have committed some sort of abuse, shall we say, domestic violence, that wasn't actual violent, because automatically, if you look at who is currently excluded, you're excluded if from owning a firearm if you've had a felony conviction of domestic violence. So you're automatically excluded already. But they're wanting to deal with these misdemeanor cases, is what I would view it as. These are misdemeanor crimes that they want to have excluded from owning a firearm. And speaking of misdemeanor crimes, another one they're now referring to, these wonderful Democrats running for president, is they're calling it the hate crime loophole. These are people who have been convicted on misdemeanor hate crimes, and they want to exclude them from owning a firearm. So this could be people who have convicted of a hate crime because they said something vile, like the N-word, and they get convicted on it. And it's a misdemeanor. And they don't want them having a firearm. And that is just absolutely wrong. So because a guy uses a word that's offensive to a Muslim or to a black person or to a Latino or even to a white person, they get convicted on a crime for that, and they're not allowed to protect themselves in their home because of that speech, slip of the tongue. I mean, come on. Now, I am not supporting that sort of language by any way, shape, or form. I think all of that language should be excluded from our regular use. But the government shouldn't say what we can and cannot say. After all, we're supposed to have freedom of speech. Now, when it comes to these hate crime issues, why are we calling them hate crimes to begin with? Don't we currently in our legal system have laws that include those things that surround the hate crimes? You're not allowed to murder, yet. You're not allowed to steal, yet. You're not allowed to do various things currently, and we're going to call it a hate crime. To why? Make it a higher sentence? Make it a bigger charge? You've committed a crime against somebody. You're already going to be held accountable for that crime. Why do we need to have a new category called hate crime? It's ridiculous. The last thing I want to discuss is abortions. And here's what I'm referring to. Not so long ago, the other week, last week in fact, I heard numerous Catholics, numerous Christians that support abortion. And they do it on the grounds that the government shouldn't tell a woman what she can and cannot do with her body. But here's my problem with that. We already have a government that tells us what we can and cannot do with our body. For instance, in the state of Oregon, I cannot climb on a motorcycle and drive down the road without a helmet on. Is that not the government telling me what I can and cannot do with my body? How about the under 16-year-olds in the state of Oregon who climb on a bicycle without a helmet? They currently, if they are riding without one, are in violation of a law that says you can't ride a bicycle if you're under the age of 16 without a helmet on. So the government's already telling us what we can and cannot do with our body. How about those under the age of 16? They can't drive a car without a driver's license. Or an adult, period, cannot drive a car without a driver's license. Is that not the government telling us what we can and cannot do with our body? They're telling me I physically can't get in a car and drive without paying some sort of fee to the state system and getting a card that says, yeah, I can drive a car. So the government does regularly tell us what we can and cannot do with our body, including telling us we cannot go murder somebody. Or I can't go throw myself off a bridge to kill myself. So the government does tell us what we can and cannot do with our body. So why in the world are we, as Christians, holding up something so appalling as murdering an innocent life, murdering an unborn baby? And yet they will beat their drums saying, we cannot have the government telling us what we can and cannot do with our body. It's my body, it's my right. Why aren't they crying foul on all these other laws the government says we can and cannot do with our body? I call it utter hypocrisy. And the bottom of the line is Christians should be standing up for that which I refer to as righteousness, the moral values that are held by all Christians. And we should be upholding those and voting for people who uphold those same values. Now, that does leave me in a conundrum with Trump, because Trump does say things that are not quite the value system I hold to. Yet I have to look at him as a whole and what he has accomplished for our country. Now, granted, we've had some stupid things he's done get to go through. For instance, the bump stock ban, I think, is completely unconstitutional. Having a government taking a piece of property away from a citizen and saying if you don't destroy it or you don't turn it over, you will be held as a criminal for owning a property that you once legally purchased. And that is wrong in any way, shape, or form under our government system. And I seriously hope Tim from the Military Arms Channel and the GOA and others who have filed a lawsuit against the government will prevail. Unfortunately, the rest of the citizens that once owned one of those and did destroy it, they are now out their funds, and tough luck for them. And that is wrong. So there you have it. Those are my thoughts here of late. Abortion and Christians standing on side of pro-lifers, I find completely offensive. Whether you're a Protestant or a Catholic, you should be standing up for righteousness and standing up for the unborn and that unborn voice. You should be standing up for that, not standing up for politicians who just want your vote. So you're going to stand up on the side because the government can't do anything with my body. And this also goes directly to my mom, who I had numerous arguments over around this issue, because my mom's on the side of those who say the government shouldn't say what I should do with my body, yet morally she's against abortion. And yet she regularly voted for Democrats who uphold this abortion system in our country. And that is wrong. And I can't understand it. And the life of me, as I lived with her, could not understand how she could hold that value. And for that matter, I don't understand how any Christian can vote for the modern day Democrats who want big government, who want abortion at all costs, abortion up to the last minute even, infanticide, some of them are even standing on the side of. And yet Christians are voting for them, and it makes no sense at all. Where is their stance up for righteousness? And that's it. So all these gun loopholes related to the NICS system are completely ridiculous, and we need to fight them in every way, shape, or form. We need to contact our senators. We need to contact our congressmen and making sure that they are upholding our Second Amendment. And if they are not, we need to vote them suckers out of office and put people in who will stand up for our free speech and stand up for our Second Amendment. And when I mean free speech, that includes hate speech. because you have a right to say what you want under our Constitution, and that needs to be upheld. There you have it. There's my thoughts for the day. Roger Stone's ridiculous sentence potential of 7 to 9 years. We'll find out February 20th what he will ultimately receive. We got these unequal justice system that needs to be fixed in our country, dramatically needs to be fixed, so these people who have committed offenses like Hillary Clinton actually see a prison sentence and get behind bars where they belong for committing crimes. And the loopholes these Democrats are jumping on, boyfriend loopholes, hate crime loopholes. Keep in mind, 7 states have already passed laws against these misdemeanor hate crime offenses. So 7 states, people who have been convicted of a hate crime can no longer buy a firearm, and that is wrong. There you have it. Take care. God bless. I hope you have a wonderful afternoon. Please hit like and subscribe if you will. Thank you very much. Hey, thank you very much for tuning into the Teal Jack channel. It means so much to me. If you like my content, I just ask that you would hit like and subscribe. If you click on this link up here, it will send you right to my subscribe page. And please take a look at some of my other videos. I'll post them here down below. Thanks once more for tuning in. I'm so appreciative of the people that spend time to watch my videos. Take care. God bless. Have a wonderful day.